breaking down the teams you're passionate about. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I know he's probably tired of us, but hey, the Mammoth keep winning. We're going to keep talking to him. Jay Stevens, Utah Puck Report, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jay, we said 4 or 5 points on the road. That would be a successful road trip. They come home with a full 6, and they do it in convincing fashion, outscoring opponents. I think it was like 19-8 over those 3 games. When you look back at this road trip overall, it wasn't necessarily a traditional road trip because they had those 4 days off between the Kings and the Kraken. Just how valuable do you think that was in them going 3-0 on this trip?
Yeah, you kind of wonder because they complained that that's one of the reasons they got off to the slow start. But these guys are banged up. And even today, there were a lot of guys missing from practice that were having a maintenance day. So I think that the 4 days off definitely gave them a chance to heal some guys that were banged up and give Veggie a little bit more of a rest. But then they got off to those slow starts, gave up a goal within the first few minutes of the first game back. So it's one of those double-edged swords. You never know what's better. You even saw it. I heard him talking about it during the college basketball March Madness too. They're like, hey, some of these teams had to keep playing for their lives, and some of them had days off. And the ones with the days off didn't seem as great at first, but then eventually got to their game.
So when you score 7 goals on 24 shots, that's a pretty efficient night at the office, correct?
Yeah, and to keep doing that was unreal, right? To see him put up that's what they keep talking about is that high potent offense they have, and to finally see those coming through with big numbers on those games, it's been pretty impressive and a lot of fun to watch for sure.
So down the stretch we come, and we just played a cut from Andre Tierney. He said, hey, as much fun as it was going 3-0 on that road trip, everybody's winning, everybody's doing well. So again, you can't lift your foot off the gas here.
Yeah, and Utah's path gets harder, right? Even though they're home, playing Edmonton, Nashville, both those teams are chasing. They're wanting better positioning, so those are not going to be easy games. Edmonton just got beat up in their last game by Vegas, so they're going to come in angry and looking to prove a point. And then Nashville's chasing, and every night you go to bed and you look at the standings, and there's somebody else in that wild card 2 spot. Right now, that is Nashville that's in the wild card 2 out of the Western Conference. So the games just keep getting harder. And then Carolina comes in. Carolina is one of the favorites to win the Cup. They're just efficient. They're effective in everything they do. They've got great goaltending, which is another story. A kid that they picked up off waivers that's been doing really well. And it's not an easy 3-game homestand like you'd want it to be to get some distance.
Yeah, I mean, home's great, but I think the one thing we've seen out of this Mammoth team is that there's not a huge discrepancy in success home versus the road. You'd think, okay, now it's going to be nice to be at home, but the way this team's playing on the road, you may not mind a road game in there, 2 or 3 of those mixed in.
Yeah, it's funny. After we talked about that, I looked it up to see what are the stats over the last 10 years? I think I actually went back 20 years. What are the stats over the last 20 years on home teams winning during the regular season? It's 54%. And then home teams winning during the playoffs, it drops to 52%. So home ice may not be that much of an advantage like we always thought it was. Maybe it's the distractions, your wife or kids or whatever. I know I mentioned mowing the lawn, and people started – like having Keller mow the lawn or something. And I got a lot of email about that. Like, there's no way he mows his own lawn. But yeah, it's, you'd expect him to take care of business at home. Like I said, tough schedule at home, but hopefully we really think they need like 3 more wins out of the next 6 games. And that should give them the distance they need.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Nashville right on the heels, and it just seems like between them and St. Louis, it's just been an interesting back and forth. And what we're seeing, for that spot, this could be eliminated pretty quick. About a 5-point differential between Nashville, and then you look at the Kings, about a 5-point differential there. I mean, this thing could turn on its head very quickly.
Yeah, it could. And that's the one thing we've really got to focus on as a fan base is that as you're just hoping that Utah keeps that distance. They've got to pick up a couple wins here, and it's playoff hockey basically for everybody right now. Everybody's fighting. Everybody knows that any loss could eliminate them or make it harder for them to make the playoffs. So you really got to have that Game 7 mentality going in, and we're seeing Utah kind of they've been able to do that on the road. I mean, putting up that many goals has been unreal. And Edmonton just gave up 7 goals the other night to Vegas. So it can be done, and it'd be amazing for them to start right off with a win. But, yeah, Nashville's got 81 points. The Kings have 81 points. The Sharks have 79 points. St. Louis has 78 points. So they're all right there. And then a lot of people have asked about the tiebreak. If all those teams are tied, it goes to who has the most regulation wins without going to a shootout. So it'll be interesting because LA has had the most overtime games like anybody's ever heard of in the NHL. I think there are 31 games, and they've got 19 losses in overtime. It's just unheard of how many times they've gone into overtime.
You know what's crazy is looking at Anaheim. They're 41-31 on the season. They've got 87 points on the year, and yet they're minus 14 in goal differential. I mean, that's just like, wait, what? That's crazy.
That is crazy, and it's one of those things Bill Armstrong pointed out. Typically, the teams that make the playoffs never have a negative goal differential. And you're seeing, like, Anaheim with minus 14, and they did have some goaltender issues at the beginning. And at the beginning of the year, they weren't that great, and they were giving up a lot of goals. But to finish the season, I mean, we're this far into the season, and for them to be minus 14, and then you look at Nashville, minus 22, LA, minus 26, and then the Sharks are minus 36. But they're just, like, the Sharks seem to just be, they play like 3 really great games, and then they just, you know, they lay an egg. So the Sharks are pretty inconsistent and young. But and same with the Ducks. The Ducks are a young team too, just like the Mammoth. So it's interesting to see any of these teams contending for the playoffs that have a minus goal differential.
If there's a team out there that not Mammoth related, let's just say you can choose a random team, but you have to pay to watch them play. Is Edmonton pretty high up on that list?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Edmonton would be up there. I mean, to watch Connor McDavid, you know, if they don't play Utah in the first round, I hope Draisaitl comes back. He's such an amazing player. He's been hurt. And if he comes back healthy, they're a lot of fun to watch. Anaheim's been a lot of fun to watch too. But man, if you're going to spend money to watch a team and you're going to pick up a new team to be a fan of, it's hard not to really love what the Colorado Avalanche do, because they've got that high-speed offense. They've got one of the best defensemen. He'll probably go down as one of the best defensemen to ever play the game in Kel McCarr. And, you know, and then you got McKinnon up front, and they're just loaded, and they have 2 solid goaltenders. So if I'm going to pay money to watch a team, I think I'd want to watch Colorado, but I'm still a Mammoth fan. I don't want the
No. That's why I'm saying you can't choose the Mammoth. We had that. We laid that out there. Boy, you talk about goal differential there, plus 91. Yeesh. That's a crazy number.
They just are. I mean, they're just dismantling every team they play against, and they're just scary good. And I talked about how good Carolina is, and they're only plus 47. Tampa Bay is plus 66. But Colorado has 110 points already. They've already won 50 games. They're just a scary team to watch. But the NHL has this history of whoever wins the President's Trophy, which means you have the most wins and the most points at the end of the season. They don't usually win the Stanley Cup. It's a really weird thing. It's like one out of the last 10 years.
Interesting. All right, it's like winning the par 3 tournament before the Masters. You want no part of that. All right, so when you look at this final stretch, you think 3 games, that's your magic number. 3 wins down the stretch get you there?
Yeah, and I want to take credit for that, but that's what Torini said today as well. So they really feel like 3 games. Actually, it's Bill Armstrong. Bill's the one that said it today. 3 games seems to be the magic number here. If they get 3 games, gives them 6 more points. That should give them enough to keep that spot, that first wild card spot by the end of the season. Because, Utah's not the only one with a tough road ahead. So all the other teams got to play each other. And especially if they can get a win against Nashville and if they can get a win against St. Louis, those are the teams that'll give them the space they need to make the playoffs in that wild card one spot.
We talk a lot about some of the stars on this team. How much credit should Sergachev be getting for what he's been able to do on that blue line?
A ton. I mean, he's been an anchor back there. But and he eats up a ton of minutes. When you look at the guys that play the most minutes for this team, Sergachev and Ian Cole, and completely different style of defenseman. Cole's out there and it always looks like he's working his tail off. And people watch Mikhail Sergachev and they think he's not working that hard, but he's always in the right spot. He just has a casual way of skating. He's still working. He still seems to be in the right spot all the time, anchoring down, getting great. Like he picks up good points. And, he's still got a good plus minus. He's just been one of those guys that have been – you just can't really put a number on how important he's been to this team, but he's out there for all the most important moments. He's out there right after they get a goal or right after they get scored on. That's who you can tell who your coach really counts on. Who does he put out right after you give up a goal? Who's going to go out there and stabilize the team? It's always Sergachev. So that speaks volumes of what the coaching staff thinks of him.
How much, when you look at a stat sheet after a game, how much are you looking at face-off win percentages?
I look at it quite a bit, and they break it down offensive and defensive zone, and those defensive zone wins, or especially in overtime, you've got to win those face-offs, right, where puck possession means everything. And as these games get more important and the goals are going to be harder to come by, like don't expect these 6-goal games. I don't expect the Mammoth to keep putting up 6 on everybody. I expect these games to get a little tighter. You're going to see some 1-0s and 2-1 games, and it comes down to who's going to win that faceoff in your defensive zone because puck's got to get out of your zone and in the other zone, and that becomes the focus as you get closer to the playoffs. And they're definitely in playoffs. Pucks in, pucks out. It's as simple as that, and it starts at that faceoff.
Who Mammoth are playing well. Who do you consider the hot? I mean, in Colorado's just been a machine all year, but late season surge. Who are you keeping an eye on?
Well, what the LA Kings have been able to do, because if you keep in mind, they fired their coach a little while ago. They weren't doing very well. They were way out of the playoffs. And for them to kind of skyrocket since basically Christmas and be battling for this playoff spot, the LA Kings are dangerous because that's exactly how they won their first Stanley Cup. They had to win the last night of the regular season, and then they barely made the playoffs by winning the last game of the regular season. They made the playoffs and just went on a tear and won the Stanley Cup. So I think the LA Kings is who I'd say are the most dangerous. The San Jose Sharks can be if they can figure out how to be a little more consistent, and they've surprised a lot of people lately with that Macklin Celebrini putting up so many points and just being this young phenom. Both those teams are really scary if they make it into the playoffs, and I think they just keep rising.
All right, so we've talked to a lot of hockey people. I apologize if we've discussed this already, but what's going on in Vegas, man? Is that just an organization where, they will just cut your throat at any given moment?
Yeah, you look at how fast they fire coaches, and it's mind-boggling to me that you can go to the Stanley Cup one year, the first year in your team's existence, you don't win the Stanley Cup, so they fire you as a coach. They bring in another coach who makes it to the Stanley Cup. They just fire guys all the time. What they did to Marc-Andre Fleury turned a ton of fan base off to how they handled their players, and having players find out they've been traded or released online. They're just a cutthroat organization. And, I know a lot of people want to play there because they want to live there and they have a winning culture. But at some point they got to look at, you're going to see free agents say, no, I don't trust the organization because of how cutthroat they are. There's no loyalty at all. And I get it. It's a business, but they really take that it's a business to the next level. And there's just zero room for any error in that organization. They just seem to be quick they move on from the player. They move on from the coach. Just no questions asked. We'll find somebody else.
Well, hey, we appreciate it, Jay. As long as they keep winning, we're going to keep coming to this well, man. So we're very superstitious on this show. So as long as the Mammoth win, you're going to be a big part of what we're doing here.
Well, it sounds great. I love it.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks. There he is, Jay Stevens, host of the Utah Puck Report. You can find that at KSLSports.com.